everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of One on One. I am with Eric from Progressive Spine and Rehab. He's the owner and clinical director. And today we're going to talk about not only his business, but also about his company and how he got there and everything. So this will be really fun. How's it going, man?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming in. Isn't this going to be fun?
Yeah, I'm excited.
So when you were in middle school, high school, were you an athlete?
I was athletic.
Yeah.
I played on some teams in middle school, played on a soccer team, varsity in high school. Not nearly good enough to go into college, but definitely athletic. I did a lot of the quote-unquote alternative sports, skateboarding, BMX biking, rock climbing, that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
Snowboarding.
Did you use a chiropractor in high school? Because I did during football. I had a chiropractor that I went to see, and it seemed to help a lot.
Yeah, I think my first experience with chiropractic was I had done a backflip on a trampoline and landed on my head and felt a pop in my back, and it was awful. So I said, oh, well, I got to go see a chiropractor. I didn't even think about going to a doctor, regular doctor. And she helped me out. It did really well, and that kind of was my first experience. It was a positive one, and after that I sort of said, well, maybe I could do that. But I was sort of a slacker in high school, so I was like, okay, maybe I'll skip that. And as time went by and I kind of got my act together, went to college and started doing really well, then I revisited the idea of chiropractic, and it seemed to fit.
Did you go, so you didn't go to college straight for chiropractic. You started, what did you start with?
I started with telecommunications.
Nice.
But I started in Burlington, Vermont, in one of the schools there. But my primary criteria at the time was where could I do the most snowboarding on the East Coast? Not so much what's a good school.
I love that. That would have been my exact goal.
Yeah. So after some time well spent or misspent, depending on your views, I transferred to Springfield College in Massachusetts and really buckled down, started pulling all A's. And I was doing exercise science, exercise physiology, and I just loved it. Absolutely loved it.
That's
and I
awesome.
had a strength conditioning focus while there. So I was learning everything that I wanted to know at the time. So
you graduated from there.
Yep. Graduated from there, worked for about a year, maybe 2 years at Verizon Wireless in Tampa, Florida, where I was doing, I was a health and wellness coordinator, which is just a fancy personal trainer.
For the company?
Yeah, for the company. Yeah, for the people
okay, I was
in the
trying to
call
see how
center.
these two were going to come together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was working at a call center. There was between 3,000 and 5,000 employees there, and I was running the program with another trainer to get people exercising, getting them up, getting them moving, and just keeping them healthy. And so then the time came to say, well, I kind of want to go back to school. I want to learn more. So I started looking around at what I could do in that area, and there was a chiropractic school in Daytona Beach. So it seemed that I didn't know too much about the whole philosophy of chiropractic. I knew I had a good experience with it.
Right.
So I started looking it up, and it seemed like a good fit. It fit with what I was doing, helping people stay healthy without the use of drugs or surgery. I said, oh, well, that's pretty good. So I applied and got in. And the rest is history, I suppose.
That's amazing. So what brought you all the way back from Tampa? So what got you out of Florida to come back to the cold New Hampshire? Was it skiing?
Well, I was excited to get back to the Northeast. That's for sure. There's fun things to do in Florida. It's different than the Northeast. So I'm definitely an outdoorsy kind of guy. So I want to get back here. But my wife is from Londonderry, so that was the primary reason to come back to New Hampshire. I think if I had it my way, I would have been in Colorado somewhere.
Oh, yeah, out west. Yeah. So
But
did you guys meet before you went to Tampa, and then did she go with you?
Yeah, no, we met in undergrad. It's in Springfield College.
Nice.
And she left the school, and we were just stayed in contact, AAM, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we kept in contact the whole time. Then she was living in Tampa. So when I had to go down there for the internship and the job that followed, I stayed with her. So then when I switched, we started dating, and then she followed me into chiropractic school to Daytona, and then we moved back up together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a cool thing.
Now she's my wife, so.
That's amazing. And now you have 2 kids.
Now I have 2 kids, yeah.
And you just had another boy.
Another boy, yeah.
Congrats, man.
Yep,
That's
Donovan
awesome.
and Mitchell. It's pretty fun.
That's awesome. So, do you think they're going to be rowdy or quiet?
So far, they've been good babies. They're good sleepers. They're pretty chill. As Donovan, he's the older one. As he's turned 3 just this month. He's starting to get a little wild. So
starting to run, starting to disobey.
Yeah,
learn no.
If he's anything like my wife and I, we're gonna have our hands full.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you get out of school, and then what is the path? Every time I go see a chiropractor, I've rarely seen 2 in a practice.
Right.
Do you intern? Do you work under another chiropractor for a while and then move on? How does that generally go?
Yeah, that's a good question. So chiropractic school is akin to medical school. So you need a bachelor's degree to get in, and you're in school for between 3.5 years. Wow. Medical doctors end up going on and doing a residency or a fellowship or continue that kind of schooling further. Chiropractors are generally at that point after schooling tossed right into practice, and whatever that looks like is different for everybody. I was fortunate enough to get a very sought after internship or residency, if you want to call it, for the last 3 or 4 months of my schooling. So that was at the Rhode Island Spine Center in Providence, Rhode Island, with Dr. Murphy there. And it was very sought after just because he was setting up a residency. So I visited people getting spine surgeries. I was visiting nerve conduction velociting, physical therapy. I was going to the Rhode Island Hospital and sitting in on grand rounds lectures with orthopedics and neurosurgeons, just getting exposed to all this. So it was a really unique experience that I'd say most chiropractors in the country don't really get. There's other residencies,
right,
and there's definitely good practices to be a part of, but this is really something unique.
Is that something because that's amazing that you were able to have that experience that gave you a ton of extra knowledge and made you, extra aware and extra productive in your craft. Do you see that some chiropractors aren't able to get that because they are kind of just shoved out into the world, and maybe they open up a practice right away, just like and rent a single one-room office, and maybe they aren't offering the best possible service that they can provide? Or is it something that the school does a very good job of teaching you what you really need to know, and then those experiences just help build?
So I'd say the school gives all chiropractors a great foundation. They know the basics. It's what you do after that really turns every doctor down one road or down another road, or makes one doctor great or another one just okay. I'd say having the residency that I had has definitely shaped the way that I think, the way that I approach patient care. But I wouldn't say that another doctor who didn't have that experience is less qualified or less of a doctor. It's really just the person and what they want to explore or learn about. I try to focus on continuing to learn, right?
Right.
If you graduate from school and you don't really try to continue to learn, then you might have a more difficult time, or not. Your business could be flourishing, and you just are a really good doc right out of school and with the basics.
Right.
Sometimes the basics are the best, right?
Right.
You can get all fancy, but the basics are really key. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so after that, so you get out of your residency, which is really amazing residency. Did you go out and look? Did you want to open your own practice? Did you look for one you could work at for a little while?
Yeah. So I always had the idea that I would work for a doctor and then either buy in or purchase the practice from that doctor. So with that mindset and coming to New Hampshire, I just started looking around, and I had a couple of really interesting experiences working for different doctors. Some of them were, almost off the books. Some of them I was a legitimate employee. But in either case, they didn't really pan out. Finally, I found Dr. John Merrick here in Manchester, and he was selling his practice. And so he brought me in. I technically opened my own business entity inside of his practice and just started practicing. This was maybe 2013.
Wow.
And then after that, everything clicked. We really liked each other. We practiced very similarly. So I bought the practice from him.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so when did you actually end up buying the practice? What year was that?
It was August 2014.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So this is going on 5 years now.
And so how do you feel that the company's been doing in those 5 years? Have you felt a lot of growth, having it be that I'm sure he was having you buy it because he was retiring?
Yeah. So
it's fresh blood, fresh
Yeah.
excitement, you know?
we've definitely had our ups and downs with the practice. You know, it's always scary stepping into the unknown. And that's one of the things they don't teach you in chiropractic school or med school for that matter, is how to run a business. So it's scary, but as time goes by, you start learning the tricks of the trade. You start learning the rules, how to hire somebody, how to fire somebody, how to do correct finances,
Right.
bookkeeping. So as time goes by, it gets a little smoother. And wouldn't you know it, as you get better at that kind of stuff, the practice slowly starts to grow.
Right.
Actually doing the chiropractic, actually treating the patients is the easy part. That's the fun part.
Yeah, I'm sure the rest of it's extremely difficult. I mean, even having to deal with insurance companies, that must be unbelievably convoluted.
Yeah,
that whole
that's
system.
difficult. That's really difficult.
So do you have to pick do you have to pick certain insurance companies where like these guys are tolerable, and then this insurance company over here, I can't deal with them?
Generally, yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
really? Yeah.
And nobody tells you what's good or what's not. So you just kind of say, oh, yeah, I've heard of a couple of insurance companies. I'll pick those.
Yeah.
And then as time goes by, you say, well, these are really difficult over here. These guys are tolerable. So you go with the tolerable ones.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a wild. What I've noticed with insurance companies is that they don't pay enough attention to services like dietitians and chiropractors and PTs and people who are basically doing preventative medicine. I feel like a lot of what you do could help someone prevent a surgery.
Sometimes, yeah. You know, generally speaking, I think the insurance companies are out. They're a business. They want to make money as well. They're in charge of sort of monitoring their clients or the customers' health. Mm-hmm. So they need to make sure that they're meeting their marks, right? So I can't dock them for being in business for themselves.
Right.
But I think that there's a disconnection a lot of the times between what the customer, what the patient is looking for in health insurance and how they want to use it, and what the insurance company says the rules are. So, for example, a lot of folks like going to chiropractors once a month.
Yep.
Call it maintenance or wellness. A lot of these insurance companies explicitly say we do not cover wellness or maintenance.
Right.
And that's kind of tricky. So the doctor is kind of stuck in the middle, having to figure out how to either allow or manage the patient so that the insurance covers it appropriately. It's really tricky.
It sounds extremely tricky, and it seems still difficult for the client, because it seems like because I see some insurance companies encourage people to go to the gym. Mm-hmm. They encourage people to they'll literally give you money back. They'll pay for your
Right.
half your gym membership.
Right, which is great.
It seems like chiropractic would be one of those things where if someone was going to a chiropractor, that could prevent the insurance company from having to spend tens of thousands of dollars on other things. I mean, that might not always be true, but I feel like that it would be a good step in the right direction.
I agree. Ounce of prevention is a pound of cure, right?
Yeah, I like that.
So if
That's
people
cool.
can stay healthy and be healthy as long as possible, there's more of a likelihood that they're not going to end up sick or need expensive drugs or expensive surgeries.
And so it does end up helping a little bit.
Yeah, it can. Yeah.
Because I think that people, not people, I think that chiropractors do a really good job of, when I go see you, of talking about not just what you're doing, but also how are you eating? You know, how are you exercising? That's one thing that we talk about all the time.
Right.
Clearly, since seeing you, I do a lot more stretching, but I wasn't when I started to
Right.
see you, and
Right.
it was real obvious, right? So those things are so important.
Right.
Just those little conversations that you wouldn't have otherwise unless I would have gone to see you.
Right. Well, that's one of the cool things about being a chiropractor is you're really developing and fostering long-term relationships with your patients, because it's health care, right? Yeah, people come and say, "Oh, I've got a back pain thing." Okay, fine. Everybody knows chiropractors work on their back or their necks, but they don't often know that chiropractors can work on their elbows, their wrists, their knees, their hips, their ankles, as well as give nutrition advice, supplement advice, and even just lifestyle advice, teaching people how to sit correctly in their chair, teaching people, I mean, it's a little different for me because of my background in strength conditioning and exercise physiology, but I will get down and teach a person how to lift weights appropriately.
Which is important.
Yeah.
No, I think it is really important. I think because we talked about that, about squatting, and I learned a lot about hip flexion.
Right.
And, how some people have just a different flex and can go a little bit deeper, and that it's not always safe.
Right.
And then that was just really important for me.
Right.
How do you feel about those like little things that I've been seeing online that go on your back and zap you when you're not sitting up straight?
Oh, it's just a reminder.
That's all it is.
I think it's kind of a neat idea. It gives you a little
I should really get that back up.
Imagine if your mom was walking around and she was just saying, "Hey, Alex, make sure you sit up straight. You're slouching." That's all it is. Just a reminder. It's weird that people might be electrocuting themselves slightly just to have a reminder.
Yeah, get a little shock or a little buzz to be like, "Oh, right." And yes, I thought that was really interesting.
It's a neat invention. I think it would probably work for a lot of people.
Yeah.
The thing I always go to is like, okay, if we're talking about posture, so what if I remind you to sit up? Unless you're developing the strength and the endurance in the postural muscles. Otherwise, you're always going to slouch.
Always going to sit forward.
Yeah, you're always just going to end up back in that posture because you don't have the strength and the endurance to stay up. So that's where those exercise components can really help.
Oh, so you can actually work out at the gym and work those muscles that help you kind of keep your back up straight. Really?
Right. Yeah. That's part of a lot of what I do in my practice is teach people how to exercise appropriately for their goals. So you're in the gym, you're lifting weights, you're doing a lot of stuff, right? So teaching you to exercise is going to be different than teaching a 75-year-old person who's never lifted any weights in their life.
Right.
That person's not necessarily going to go to a gym, but they can certainly exercise, teach them different moves, different techniques to help them with better posture so that they can, lift up their grandkids easier. So it's all a spectrum.
And actually, so you actually have a great setup at your shop for this. You guys have this like beautiful workout area that we've gone into to talk about the different movements. So it's not just like most chiropractors where you go and it's just an office. You have this like really cool workout facility where you can actually teach people how to work out, and especially, I'm sure, just different moves.
Yeah.
And how to use equipment correctly and how to use weights correctly.
Yeah, well, that goes to my background, right? So that, as I mentioned, Springfield grad, exercise science. I'm a certified strength conditioning specialist as well. So my whole background is lifting and exercising for athletic performance. So it's important for me to be able to have an environment where I can take a person and say, well, let's go into the gym area here and teach you how to exercise, and it doesn't have to be squatting for the sake of squatting. It could be squatting for being able to get down and get up from a chair.
Right. So, just the simplistic movement, right?
Just really functional stuff like that.
And so when people come in with those, that's generally probably closer to either like a serious injury or something like that where they have to, how often are you working directly with a surgeon? Or, I mean, maybe not directly, but with someone who could possibly need surgery.
Right.
And then how do you, I feel like there's a lot of tension, but that could just be made up just in people talking and things like that.
Yeah, tension between the medical doctors generally and chiropractors. Yeah. So going back in time as sort of a history lesson, there was a hypothesis about why chiropractic works. Bone out of place, pushing on a nerve, causing interference down the nerve signals. And so chiropractors said, oh, you're misaligned in your spinal column, so I'm going to realign or adjust you. And that was the prevailing hypothesis, through the 90s even.
Wow.
And now as research has sort of caught up, we're realizing that's not quite how it works. And if you as that research has caught up and specifically evaluating the efficacy or how effective a spinal manipulation can be for all sorts of various ailments, the medical community has started realizing this is a legitimate treatment. This is a legitimate profession that can help. You know, and there's goods
Right.
and there's bads. There's some chiropractors or even some medical doctors that you might not really want to go see because they just aren't doing a good job. And then there's the good, right? So I'd say in my own experience, I work as sort of the almost as like a primary care spine provider. So it's somebody who's, if you've got back pain, neck pain, headaches, I want my patients to say, geez, I got to go see Dr. O'Connell first. I'm sort of that point guard, and I'm helping dish those patients out to all the other medical professions as I see, right? So if I'm looking at somebody, I'm going, geez, you know, Mrs. Jones, I see you're having some chest pain, some arm pain, you're breathing heavy. Probably should go to the emergency department because you might be having a heart issue, right?
Right.
That's one example. It's a little dramatic, but
Right. No, but it's true.
Yeah. It's actually just reminded me. I had a woman come in, spoke just a little bit of English, and she was having leg pain, and I was communicating through an interpreter, her boyfriend, and as it turned out, she started having, just that day or the day before, had numbness in her genital area, which is bad. You don't want that.
That's crazy.
So I sent her to the emergency department, and she had surgery that night on her spinal cord.
Really?
Because they came back and said, the surgeon said that was the biggest disc herniation he's ever seen. So
Wow.
I don't work, you know, I don't communicate with the surgeon, but
Right.
I'm sending them to where they need to go when they need it.
Right. You're not just saying like, I can fix that.
Right.
Yeah. That's
yeah. Part of my whole model is being part of that spine care or that healthcare team.
Right.
Just like your orthopedic might be part of your team. They're treating episodically, whereas I'm treating, you know, once every couple weeks, couple months. And so I develop that long-term relationship, whereas they might see that surgeon twice in their lifetime.
Right. In their whole life.
Right.
I was reading a study about chiropractic and how important it is to professional athletes, because you were saying how you're strength and conditioning
Right.
licensed. And
Well, that actually falls under a different certification that I have as well, which is the Certified Chiropractic Sports Practitioner.
oh, wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a separate certification?
Yeah, right.
How do you get that?
So, as we mentioned, you get out of school, you learn the basics.
Yeah.
Well, you can continue to go and get education. You do those through regular seminars. Like, you know, you need a certain amount every single year. You can actually go and get additional certifications. So there's nutrition, there's pediatrics, there's neurology, and then there's sports. So I chose
cool.
that sports path because of my background. The sports certification is really unique, not just so I can treat athletes, but
Right.
so that I'm looking at injuries and treating an injury. So you might be a chiropractor who have the basics, and you say, oh, it's a lateral epicondylitis, you know, a tennis elbow.
Yep.
And you might say, that's all I got for you. I don't really know what to do with it. Whereas as a sports certification, you actually know how to treat that, you know, diagnose it, treat it, and put that person into the right rehab program.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Because I was reading this thing, and it was like, I think it was the 80s and 90s, the U.S. had never won like a Taekwondo gold medal. And it wasn't until the team accepted chiropractors as part of their medical team
Right.
that they won. And then
that's
around the
neat.
same time, the NFL also started using chiropractors.
Right.
And the injury rate went down. And there's a massive amount of professional athletes that swear their success is from making sure they have a chiropractor
Right.
with them all the
Yeah,
time.
there's definitely the direct, you know, application of chiropractic. You're manipulating the joints, you're working on the soft tissues and the muscles to help them just generally move better. A lot of the what they're calling now a sports performance team, which is traveling, you know, these guys travel with the athletes, right? A lot of those folks are often treating injuries as they occur, whereas chiropractors are a little bit more of treating an athlete before they occur. So that could be why a lot of the athletes like having a chiropractor around, because it helps them stay better before an injury develops.
Yeah, there's a lot of like very famous professional athletes that they swear by it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's very cool.
Every professional NFL team, I'm pretty sure, can't quote me on it, but pretty sure every professional NFL team has a chiropractor on the sideline at every game.
I that seems like one of the, because it seems extremely important.
Yeah.
Because you can also help during the game for simple things.
Right.
And so, talking about that, you actually got to be involved this year in 2019 in some really amazing events.
Yeah.
Let's talk about at least the first two because they're just really amazing. So you were in Nitro. You were on the medical team for Nitro Circus.
Yeah. So Nitro Circus is sort of like it's an extreme sporting event. It's almost like a show, and you've got motocross and BMX, and I think there was one guy who had a scooter at this particular event. Yeah. And they're going off jumps and they're doing really wild stuff. And so they travel around the country, even the world, doing these stunts. And at each location, there's local folks that are or maybe not even so much local, but flown in sometimes to provide medical coverage. So as they came to Manchester, I was contacted by a doctor out of Boston who does a lot of sports, and he asked me if I'd like to be part of the medical team for the Manchester Nitro Circus stop. I mean, how can you resist that? It's in your hometown. It's no travel. It's great.
How cool is that? I've seen that event, and it's absolutely amazing. It's insane what these guys do.
Right. Yeah.
And the fact that you were able to help them and be there to support them is just super cool.
Yeah, it was on the field,
cool.
You know, in case they went down.
Right.
Our job was to run out there, provide emergency medical assistance, help triage them, stabilize them, get them off the field, and bring them down to the trainer's room there at the Fisher Cat Stadium, and then evaluate them and treat as needed.
And you know what I find amazing about that event, from if I was one of those people, I mean, if you get invited to a tennis competition to be the medical on the medical team, you might see something, a broken ankle, I don't know. But
Wrist
you can
sprain.
almost guarantee when you go to a Nitro Circus that there's going to be something.
Yeah.
Because what they do is so intense and they're hurt so often.
Yeah. If they go down, they usually go down hard.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like to really go big or go home.
Yeah.
They're not joking around.
Yeah. Fortunately, we didn't have any major events, major injuries. We had one gentleman who, as I was telling you earlier, was kind of doing a wheelie on his motocross, kind of goosing it a little bit too much. And they lay down these fiberglass tracks so that dirt bikes don't tear up the field.
Yep.
And he fell and slid probably 20 yards on these fiberglass, and it got all in. It cut up his arm, cut up his knee, and we had to, stabilize him, which isn't too difficult. He's not, traumatically injured. He's just pretty much a bad road rash. Apply bandages, and this gentleman wanted pain medication because obviously it hurts a ton. Yeah. So we sent him to the hospital to get it cleaned out and get the care he needed there.
Oh, that's cool. What a fun event.
Yeah.
That must have been a part. And then you also did a gymnastics invitational.
Yeah. It was the Bresgens Gymnastics Invitational in Boston. It's a fairly well-known gymnastics tournament. Some of the previous Olympians actually competed in that tournament.
Really?
Before they became Olympians. So there's really top-notch gymnasts coming out of that invitational.
That's amazing.
That competition, yeah. And that was fun. No major injuries. We had a couple of, I think I have a picture up of treating somebody's toe. She jammed
the toe?
Yeah, she jammed her big toe on the uneven bars.
Yeah.
And so we had to put the gloves on and clean it out and put some tape on it. Pretty easy.
So she cracked it open a little bit. Oh, yeah. Oh, she hit it hard. Yeah.
And other than that, there was some shoulder issues, some dislocations, some sprains, some strains. So it was fun.
It's amazing to me that gymnastic athletes don't get hurt more often. It's a very violent looking landing for everything. Everything looks violent.
It's how they progress. You start off slow. And as you get better and better and better, you're doing more difficult tricks, but you're doing them in a pretty safe environment and spotters, right?
Yeah.
So it's really, they're not starting off, on a balance beam, feet off the ground doing backflips, right? They got to really ease up to that. So by doing that, they learn they can mitigate some of the injuries.
But I've seen a NFL athlete tear an ACL on a quick turn.
Yeah.
And a gymnast do 4 backflips, land right on right on her feet.
Yeah.
And do an amazing job.
Right.
It was unbelievable. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing to be there.
Yeah.
And to watch the high level athletes. I think they had levels 8s, 9s, and 10s competing at the time. And so you could see the difference between an 8 and a 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you can actually, there's a lot.
Oh, yeah. You know, an 8 would do a backflip on the balance beam.
Yep.
And wobble, but land it. A 10 would stick it.
Perfect.
And just move on to the next trick. I mean, you could really see the difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do that. Hopefully get invited back this year to provide some
to do that again.
Sports medicine again. Yeah, it'd be fun.
What a fun event that is. So do you find when you're treating someone that they are like, how receptive are people when you're treating them? You know, like, are people, I think the first step is going to the chiropractor. I think a lot of people will trust you once they're there. I think that's a big first step, is just getting to go.
Right.
I do struggle to get some of my friends to go see, even my girlfriend at one point, to go see a chiropractor.
Yeah.
But man, was she stoked after she came to see you. So do you see, like, once they come in and speak with you, that their guard kind of comes down and they feel a little bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. There's still some skepticism in the population about chiropractic. People like to say, "Oh, I believe in chiropractic," or "I don't believe in chiropractic," which is silly because
very silly.
Yeah, it's like saying, "Oh, I believe in insulin," or "I don't believe in insulin." It's like, well, it works if you need it, right?
Yeah.
And even though it works for one person who needs it, it might not work for another person. So it's not whether you believe in it. It is going to work. It's just whether it's going to work for your particular condition.
Right.
So, as people come in, they come in with these ideals, and once they usually meet me, I'm try to be as friendly and as polite as I can be, and just kind of tell it like it is. This is what I'm seeing. This is what we're going to do, and just give them my recommendation.
I do really like that because, when you come in, I just like the straight up honesty. It's just like, okay, you're not doing this right. You got like, you've just got to like do a little bit better. You've got to focus on what you're doing. Everything, just at work. What are you doing at work? What are you doing at the gym? What are you doing at home? How are you causing this issue that you keep having?
Right.
And I think that's important. I think people just don't get that a lot from doctors.
Right. It's sort of identifying what's causing your issue and then what's perpetuating your issue. Right.
Yeah. What are you doing to make it even worse?
Right.
Yeah. And then I just see so much information out there. I think that a lot of, do you think that working together, I know you like the whole having, that you like to send people to the right service that they need on top of your service.
Right.
What do you find is the best for a person? I mean, is it, even if they're not training, or doing something trying to do something at a high level, they're just an average person. I mean,
sure.
Should the average person see a dietitian and a chiropractor, plus whatever else could bring that circle together for them?
Sure, yeah. Well, that's kind of, it all depends upon the needs of the patient, right? Mm-hmm. If you're having aches and pains, there's a number of different types of providers you can go see. Depending on who you see, probably dictates where you end up getting referred to if you need referrals. I kind of want to say the average person with no major health issues should have a primary care physician and be going for their annual physicals. They should be, as aches and pains arise, have somebody to help them deal with that. And that could be a massage therapist, just to kind of work the muscles, stretch them out, make them feel better. But it could be something like a chiropractor who's going to give them more professional advice on how to move forward. Physical therapists are great, but they don't tend to deal with helping you stay better. They just kind of focus on more of the rehab. And that's not the rule, but that's kind of the majority, I would say. Having a dietitian, I think, would be a great idea. There's a lot of incorrect information that's out there. It's really difficult for the layperson to sift through it all. So having a dietitian or even a naturopathic doctor to help you kind of work through some of that is a good idea.
It's very important.
Yeah.
So what would be one of your really great success stories that you like really love to think about, either with a patient or something that you did? Because I know that there are just some great stories that you must have about helping clients who maybe thought they needed some awful surgery
Right.
or something like that.
So off the top of my head, two comes to mind. I had one woman, probably in her mid 40s, and she was previously a pretty hardcore mountain bike athlete,
Cool.
out of UNH actually. She might have been there years ago. I don't know,
Yeah.
80s, 90s. She actually said she herniated her discs during a mountain bike race, and she didn't stop. She finished the race. So really high level pain tolerance.
Wow.
But as a result of that, she ended up with fibromyalgia and just debilitating pain. Like, she was almost bedridden for a year, 2 years, a few years after that. So it was really crazy. So when she saw me, she said, well, I've got fibro. I heard chiropractors could help. That's a tough case. That's really tough. Fibromyalgia has a lot of different reasons for developing.
For the listeners and me,
Yeah.
what is fibromyalgia? What is the breakdown?
Fibromyalgia generally is your body's irrational response to otherwise normal stimuli. So something that shouldn't hurt does hurt. You bend over to pick something up, you get a flare up, quote unquote, wherever, and you're just in pain. So it's sort of the neurological system just out of whack.
Right.
Right. So this woman saw me for over a year, probably came in at the beginning once a week, maybe even twice a week at sometimes, and we slowly worked her back. And it was about a year and a half that she was going for walks, going for hikes. She was riding her bike leisurely again. It was a complete 180.
That's amazing.
It was really, really fun to see. And she's subsequently moved to South Carolina, and she's, as far as I know, is doing really well. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See, so it must be, those must be the cases that, did those help you get through tougher days where you're just like, I've been able to help these people so much. It must feel amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool when you have that experience. Those are not, I don't have those all the time, but when you get something that's really successful like that, it's helpful. It's like helping this woman with her disc herniation I mentioned earlier. That was really neat too.
So disc herniations, I got a buddy who herniated a disc up in his upper back near his shoulder. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? What's happened there?
So your disc is sort of like the jelly between two pieces of bread. If the bread were bone, and that your vertebrae.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that on the fake spines.
Right. And so
Yeah.
what happens is, for various reasons, that jelly can start to protrude in one direction or another, usually backwards towards your back, and it'll sometimes pop out and impinge upon your spinal nerves as they exit your spinal cord, or sometimes push on your spinal cord itself. And that little bump is called a disc herniation. That
Wow.
little push out, yeah.
And so what is the general course of taking care of? Does that just go away?
6 months to a year, it'll just go away.
Really?
They call that the natural history. So if you do nothing to that particular injury, what happens? Research shows 6 months to a year, a disc herniation should either be resorbed or just become non-painful. I think I read some research that said 3 out of 5 people have disc herniations in their back and have no symptoms at all. So people
Wow.
have them. It's
Right.
just a matter of whether it's causing them an issue, causing them pain.
And then is that something that chiropractic helps with a lot?
It can. Yeah, it can. Disc herniations, depending upon the symptoms the person's experience, can be helped with manual therapy, chiropractic, physical therapy, acupuncture, massage. Usually, if they're experiencing muscle weakness, that's when it becomes a little bit more concerning.
Where it needs to maybe have a surgeon look at it, or
Yeah. So,
Okay.
say you have a lumbar disc herniation, low back disc herniation, and you can't lift your foot up. That's called a
okay.
foot drop. That's not really a great sign. It shows that it's really, truly affecting the nerves. The radiating pain you might have, although a pain, is not necessarily too alarming from a doctor or physician standpoint.
But numbness and
Numbness is not too bad unless it goes to the genital area. Then it's a problem.
Then it's a real serious issue.
Basically everybody says you just go to the emergency room at that
just go
point.
straight there.
Yeah.
And so you're located on 1850 Elm Street right at the moment.
Yep.
And I think we've already shown some beautiful pictures of the inside. How are you, when going back to the business side of it, do you love your space? Are you thinking about moving your space, or are you happy in that area? Because it's even though we always talk about what you do and how you do it, I always forget to bring it back to the business side
right.
of it.
That's why we're here, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
So I do love my space. It's 2,400 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got five treatment rooms, one of which is a massage therapy room, and a wide open area for doing the exercises as we were talking about. So I had a physical therapist in there for a while. So, if anybody knows a physical therapist that wants to start a business, I literally have all the equipment. They just got to come in and rent some space.
Very cool. That'd be fun, huh?
So I love the space. I like being in the Manchester's North End. It's just a great community. Looking to potentially buy my own building.
Yep.
If the cards fall that way, I don't know if it'll be anytime soon, but it's always good to keep an ear out for that, right?
And so how is this year gone for you guys? I mean, it sounds like for you personally, it's been really fun with the events.
Yeah.
How's the company doing this year?
It's doing well. That's
amazing.
Again, there's always those ups and downs that kind of creep in there, but generally, I've been doing better this year than I was anticipating.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So at the end of the show, I just like to ask everybody, because it does always sound fun owning your own business, getting to go to Nitro Circus, getting to do all those fun things. What is a failure that you feel like helped shape what you do? It could be in school, it could be hiring, it could be anything. But something that you learned from, because doing what we do, learn all to make fail all the time, and you just learn from it and move on.
Right.
And some of them are more important than others.
Yeah. You're going to fail.
Yeah.
It's just how bad you're going to fail. You don't want to really fail. You just want a little fail.
Right.
I would think generally a failure for me might be in hiring. I've had a few different employees that some have been, I've two right now that have been with me from the start, and they're fantastic. So I did a good job hiring them. And I did some other ones where I hired in haste. I didn't quite do my due diligence, and it turned out to be less than desirable.
Right.
Overall, I'd say everybody's been positive that's been through there. It's just I think that I could have done a better job with it. Nothing detrimental to the practice.
Right.
I will tell you, and anybody who's thinking about starting a business, to really do their due diligence about the laws in the state with regards to hiring people. There's a whole law about independent contractors versus employees. I came out of school, I thought you just got to choose. You just I feel like being an independent contractor. I didn't know that there was rules that dictated that. So there was I had to spend a small fortune with my attorney just to kind of weed through all that and figure it out. I had no idea that those existed. So I think that would be I don't know if I'd call it a failure so much as a learning experience.
That's what I think most failures are. I call them failures probably to add the dramatic to the show.
Sure, yeah.
But the reality of it is, no, it's failures are just things that you learned.
Right.
You did something wrong, and you got in with your attorney, or you figured something out, and you just learned from it. And you're like, all right, that was good. Nothing serious happened.
Right.
We made it. Now I know that. And then going forward, in things where you might see that happening again, you start to pay a little more attention.
Sure.
I think that's what's important for people.
Right.
So everyone always thinks it's like owning a business is like rainbows. It's like, oh, it must be so fun.
Yeah.
It is fun. But
the fun part is when you want to take a Friday off, you just get to take Friday off.
Right.
Nobody can tell you anything.
Yeah, no one can tell you to stop, right? Yeah. So is there anything else you want to mention before we end the show?
I guess generally speaking, it's my business, as we mentioned, is Progressive Spine and Rehab Center. It's chiropractic, massage therapy, sports injuries. I do dry needling. We didn't even touch on dry needling.
Oh, yeah. Fun. Actually, yeah. And you've done that for me a couple times.
Yeah.
And it actually saved me. I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really saved like a 2 weeks of my life because I couldn't barely move.
Yeah. That is a really cool technique. It involves taking a monofilament needle, similar to an acupuncture needle, but these ones are designed more specifically for dry needling. And you place it into the belly of the muscle, and if all goes well, you should have a decrease in pain, increase in range of motion. It's just a really, really cool technique to do, and I try to do it, not as much as possible, but I try to do it every day.
I mean, you really saved me.
Yeah.
I mean, from like if someone's listening, they're like, I don't know if I should need this. I hurt myself badly at the
Right.
gym, and I
Yeah.
came in to see you, and you adjusted me, and then we did the dry needling, and I went from not being able to bend over to
Yeah.
having most of my motion back. I mean, it was crazy.
Did it hurt, do you think?
Did a little bit, but
little
not
bit?
that. It really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I think the muscle was damaged.
Right.
So that hurt. I don't
Right.
know if the dry needling hurt. No.
Yeah.
I think the muscle just hurt anyway.
Yeah, usually putting the needle in, people.
Oh, that? Not at all.
Yeah, that was the easiest part.
Oh, yeah.
It's when you hit the spot, you're like, whoa, that feels good. But
Yeah, it did release some pressure
Yeah.
and then electrocuted it a little. That was
yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
Got the
that's-
muscle to spasm.
exactly.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, it helps reset the muscle tension, muscle spindle sensitivity is a fancy way of saying it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's perfect. And the show, because that's great for people to know about. That is, I think that if that's something that you have, people should come learn more about that. I mean, it is super helpful.
Yeah.
It is unbelievably helpful.
I think, what else do I want to say? Chiropractors generally accept insurance. So
That is important.
I do get a lot of questions about that. Chiropractors, what's the other question I get? People say, once I start going, do I have to keep going for forever? The answer is no. You don't have to keep going. Some chiropractors out of the gate will require or strongly sell their patients on, you got to keep coming monthly. And that's just the model that particular chiropractor is practicing.
Okay.
Going for wellness doesn't make you healthier. It doesn't make you stronger or fitter. It's just a good practice. It's like going for a checkup once a month,
Yep.
right? So you don't have to keep going for forever. And depending upon your chiropractor, you might be asked to come a lot. Or in my case, I'm more geared towards fixing your problem and helping you get better faster, stay better longer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming by. I really appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me. This is fun.
Awesome. All right, guys. See you on the next show. Thanks for watching and listening.
I am the everyday athlete, the early riser, the never quitter.
Every day, I work hard to get there, to challenge myself, to be my best self.
And once I'm there, I'd like to stay for a while, to push through the challenges, overcome every obstacle.
See you next time. Some say it's mostly physical, pushing your body to work harder than ever before.
Some say it's mostly mental, keeping a calm focus on your goals.
Thank you. I say it's about consistency. Never giving up, always moving forward, taking care of what you have.
Awesome, thanks. Because it's impossible to be your best when you're not maintaining what you've got.
I am the everyday athlete.
I am the everyday athlete.
I am the everyday athlete.
We are everyday athletes, and we believe in taking care of what we've worked so hard for.